So you want to level up your EXP lane gameplay? Well, let me tell you that you've come to the right place. As long as you don't have the attention span of a potato, throughout the course of this video, you are going to learn 7 different key topics about EXP lane. This video is going to be a full guide. We're going to start with talking about what is EXP lane by the current meta definition, the archetypes of EXP lane, what kind of roles the different heroes play in that lane, the archetype counter matchups, so which archetypes counter which archetypes, objectives and win conditions for each archetype, rotations based on each archetype. We're going to talk about the full meta overview in general right now, and we're also going to talk about some common EXP lane mistakes. So now that you guys have the general consensus, let's get right into it. But just before we do, make sure to go down to the description and click on the link to Loot Bar. With this link, you can get up to 40% discounts on MLBB diamonds and up to bonus diamonds of 3 to 4 to 500 extra for the same amount of money recharging. Let's get into this video. Alright, let's start off with the most basic point of what is EXP lane. So the EXP lane is the solo lane of MLBB. If you've played League of Legends or if you play Honor of Kings, EXP lane is the solo lane. Now, what makes EXP lane the experience lane? That is very simple. The big minion that you kill at the end of each wave gives you bonus experience, as opposed to the gold minion on gold lane, which gives you bonus gold. But the EXP lane is not just about getting levels, it's also about controlling the tempo of the match. Since the first turtle contest is very important in this current meta, you getting your level 4 at the 2-minute mark, which is when the turtle spawns, allows you to have a massive impact on that turtle contest. So you are going to control the map by pressuring the enemies, taking space, participating in objective fights, and dominating your lane. The more tempo that you can create for the team, the better of a chance your team has to snowball and win the game. In general, heroes that are strong in early game go to EXP lane so that they can get their earlier levels and sustain. This is usually your fighters or your tanks, but there is also damage dealers on EXP lane as well, and depending on your hero's archetype, your job in this lane changes completely. So let's get into tip number 2, which is the archetypes of EXP lane heroes. So typically, you have 4 different archetypes. You have your split pushers, your damage dealers, your sustains, and your tanks. So if we start with split pushers, these are the heroes that win the game through map pressure and not necessarily participating in every team fight and getting kills. They'll push waves, they'll take turrets, and they'll force the enemy to react and defend. So think heroes, for example, Benedetta, Argus, Zilong, and Sun. You'll waste a lot of time trying to chase these heroes and stop them from split pushing, as opposed to participating in team fights or controlling the map yourself. Most of these heroes will gain their tempo by constantly forcing the enemy to have to go back to defend, which is very important because if you have a hero split pushing before a Lord contest, that Lord contest can easily become a 4v5 situation because one of the enemy's teammates has to go back to defend against the minions that were pushed earlier by the split pusher. Now, even though the meta currently isn't the EXP laner split pushing, this is very important to note if you want to play one of these heroes, because when you're playing a hero, you have to play their archetype. If you're not playing the correct archetype and playing the correct way, you are going to be hurting your gameplay massively. With that said, let's get into number 2, which is the damage dealers. Now your damage dealers are going to have high impact and snowball early in EXP lane. These are heroes like Dairoth, Paquito, etc. The heroes that can poke out the enemy or potentially kill their laner or kill the enemy jungler very easily during objective contests. They have a lot of impact in early to mid game, but usually tend to fall off in the later stages of the game, and that is simply because your team becomes more grouped up, they can't sustain as much or tank as much damage as other archetypes can, so typically you need to get a massive advantage in the early game. The next archetype is your sustain heroes. Now these are heroes like Yuzong, Lapu Lapu, Esmeralda, Uranus, those heroes that simply just don't want to die. They'll dominate you by outlasting you in trades, so the longer that you trade with them, the more HP you're going to lose while they're going to stay on a good amount of HP. Their win condition is simply endurance. You want to be oppressing and out-sustaining the enemy team, and usually sustain fighters have a lot of impact on the turtle contests and objective contests, which is why they are currently meta. Finally, you've got your utility/tanks. Heroes like Edith, for example, are considered a utility EXP laner. Esmeralda also fits in this category, but more about that later. You know, heroes like Gatocheta or heroes like Hylos, Hilda, these are all tanky EXP laners. They're not there necessarily to win the trades on lane, Hilda as an exception there of course, but their job is to clear their lane quickly and rotate and take more control of the map, and their job is also to start team fights. Since they are tanky, it is easier for them to start a team fight than it would be for a damage dealer or a split pusher. Does that make sense? Anyways, with all of this in mind, let's talk about what archetypes counter which archetypes, because this is very important to note. If you're picking the wrong archetype in lane, you are going to struggle against your enemy who picked the correct one to counter you. So now that you know the archetypes, let's talk about how they counter each other, because not every EXP matchup is about mechanics. A lot of it comes down to which archetypes win trades by design. Think of it like a cycle, which my editor will put on screen, kind of like a rock, paper, scissors type of matchup. For example, split pushers are always going to be strong later in the game, so any hero that can zone them off of farm, such as a sustain hero or a damage dealer, will have a good time versus them. But then again, damage dealers will also struggle against sustain heroes because sustain heroes will constantly outlast them. But on top of that, damage dealers will always beat tanks because tanks will never have the damage to kill them, with certain heroes as an exception, which we will talk about later. Again, tank heroes will do fine versus sustain heroes because sustain heroes can't really kill them or put enough pressure on them. Do keep in mind that no hero fits under just one specific category for the most part. A great example of this is Hilda being a damage tank. Hilda has crazy damage, meaning that she fits into both categories, which means that versus certain heroes like a Yuzong, Hilda will completely dominate him on lane, but with someone else from the tank matchup such as a Uranus or such as a Hylos or a Gatocheta, they are not going to have as equally good of a time, and that is because Yuzong is a damage sustain hero as well. So you guys have to understand which heroes fit into what categories, which heroes are more meant to be extra tanky, which ones are sustain that have damage, etc, etc. And because of that, this whole metric changes quite a bit. So for the most part, if your hero is a sustain damage, you will beat damage dealers. If your hero is a sustain damage, you will do fine versus tanks, making them the most flexible role, which is why Lapu Lapu, Arlet, Yuzong, all of these heroes are currently meta. Now if the enemy picks a tanky EXP laner, you can pick a split pusher and punish them for this pick because they can't really match you and they can't stop you from farming. See how it all ties in together? So for the most part, I believe I've done a good enough job of explaining it. If you guys have any further questions, feel free to ask in the comments down below. I will be trying to reply to as many comments as possible. Either way though, let's get into tip number 4, which is objectives and win conditions for each archetype. Knowing what your role is and what it does and what it's meant to do is what's going to separate you from average EXP laners and the best EXP laners. Split pushers win by breaking down towers and by drawing pressure to where they are on the map. Your goal isn't to be the top for damage, it also isn't to try and kill people. Your job is to constantly apply pressure on the map by constantly splitting all over the place. The more pressure you're applying, the more you're giving space to your team because the enemy has to go back to defend you. You want to think of it as people chasing you. I want to apply pressure on this side, and the more enemies I can draw attention to, the more I am winning, because I'm going to be buying that space for my team. Like I said, if even one person goes back, that Lord contest can easily become a 4v5. If 2 people go back, it becomes a 3v5. So this is your job. Now, damage dealing EXP laners win through kills and tempo. You want to dominate your lane, rotate all over the place, and turn every fight into an advantage. The faster that you snowball, the faster your team controls the map. Just don't overextend. A lot of people make the mistake of going way too deep because your whole strength is in the momentum. The second that you die even once, you are turning this momentum back over. So again, dominate your lane, apply as much pressure as possible, and burst every possible enemy that you can. It's very easy for you to target the enemy jungle, or the enemy mage, or the enemy XP. Even the enemy roamer isn't safe versus certain damage heroes like a Dairoth in early game, so do keep this in mind. Of course, the win conditions of sustain heroes is by holding your ground and outlasting the enemy. You don't even have to necessarily win lane, you're just not allowed to lose it. The longer the fight goes, the more value that you get in team fights, so your job is to soak up as much damage and pressure as you can, force the enemies to use their skills, and make space for your carry damage dealers to be able to take and dominate with. Finally, tank EXPs win by just being there first. You need to control the map, vision for your team, and start fights when the team is ready. Don't play for solo kills or any of these kind of things, unless if you were playing Hilda, of course, but for the other heroes, don't play solo, you play for timing. You want to show up early at turtles and lords, you want to control the entire flow of the game. You want to make it very difficult for the enemy team to move around the map because you're either constantly visioning them or you are constantly pressuring them. So remember that the key is that every archetype on EXP has a different objective. If you try to play a sustain hero like a damage dealer, or if you play a tank like a split pusher, you're playing against your own archetype's win conditions and just hurting yourself more. I hope that makes sense. Alright, it's time to talk about the rotations based on archetypes. So this is where a lot of people mess up, so we really need to clarify it. If you're playing a split pusher, the rule is simple. Never rotate before clearing your wave. Your pressure only matters if you're forcing the enemy to respond, so you need to push your lane first, and you need to try to keep pushing if they don't come, but if they come, you're drawing the enemy to that position. So of course, like I said, keep split pushing the map, prioritize your farm, get yourself fed, and keep applying pressure by constantly harassing and forcing the enemy to clear waves on sides of the map that they don't want to be on. Of course, you need to be at certain objective contests with your team, or else you are just making the game a 4v5 for your team, making it a lot harder. So make sure that you're clearing that lane 20 to 30 seconds before the Lord, and getting to that Lord contest at the time that the Lord starts, so that you're set up and in position with your team to take that Lord. So damage dealers, I want you to either think about cutting the lane or completely dominating your lane matchup. If you're able to get 2 to 3 kills on the enemy EXP laner, you are doing a very good job. And after this, I want you to start cutting this lane and trying to pressure mid lane or the enemy jungler if possible. The more pressure you can apply in early game, the easier it is for you to snowball and the easier it is for your team to take space and control the map. So try to win your lane and try to rotate as much as possible. You can either rotate to the enemy's jungle or to mid lane like I said, or you can literally high cut, for example, and you can go to gold lane. There's a lot of different options based on the damage XP that you are playing. Now for anyone who wants to play sustain heroes, which is the current meta, remember that you don't necessarily have to win your lane matchup if it's not possible. Just make sure that you're not dying and make sure that you are farming yourself up and ready for the turtle and lord contests. As long as you are rotating, applying pressure to the enemy team, if you're able to disperse them and completely destroy their formation as well, you are doing an amazing job. EXP laners that are under the sustain category have the job of pressuring the enemy and sustaining and soaking up all of their damage. As long as you are doing this, you are doing a good job. I have countless videos playing sustain heroes on XP, and MPL is currently playing it the most, so you can go watch the lives of the MPL. You are going to see how simple and easy it is to apply pressure and to rotate for your team. So if anyone needs any help on understanding that, just go watch some of their lives. Alright, next, let's now talk about the current meta snapshot for November 2025. Since we've broken down all the archetypes and what is EXP Lane, we need to talk about what the actual meta is. So the meta is leaning towards sustained fighters and first turtle contest. This means that heroes like Yuzong, Lapu Lapu, Arlet, CC, these heroes that are very strong in sustaining a lot of damage and pressuring the enemy, are currently at the top of the meta in EXP Lane, which means that your sustained fighters are technically the strongest role on EXP Lane right now, especially the sustained damage and the sustained tank fighters. So, for example, Yuzong falls under sustained damage in early game, but becomes a sustained tank in late game once you build enough defense on him. Same thing goes for Lapu Lapu. You go from sustained damage in early game, which is strong for first turtle contest, to sustained tank in late game, making you strong as another frontliner for your team. So that is what the current meta is. I have a video out on the pro scene meta. You guys can go into my channel and you can scroll down a little bit before this video and you will find that video. But I'm also going to be releasing a new meta tier list after the changes go live, where we know that Arlet and CC and other heroes are going to be nerfed pretty drastically. So keep in mind that that is going to be coming soon, and we'll see from there. Now, tanky EXPs such as Uranus, Hilda, Hylos, your job is simply to vision and pressure the enemy. You want to try to start fights if you can, but if you can't, don't worry, just keep giving vision on where the enemy is, because it's harder for them to kill you than it is to kill your mage. So of course, it's your job to vision instead. You just want to be the front line for the team, take as much damage as you can, set for the team when you can, etc, etc. Now for the last and final point, I want to talk about the common mistakes EXP laners make. And I want to wrap it up with this point. So the first point is rotating before clearing your wave. Obviously, there's certain times where you can do this, but for the most part, it doesn't make sense to do it. Just clear your wave and then rotate. If you want more time between clearing your wave, just go low cut or high cut. If you don't know how to do that, it is when you cut the minions in between the turrets towards the lane so that you have more time before the minions clash to rotate and do other things on the map. But of course, be careful when you cut because some people end up getting caught out and dying for it. So always pay attention to where the enemy team is before you do these things. Next up after this, I want to say stop trying to force 1v1s as the wrong archetype. If you have the losing lane matchup, stop trying to force 1v1s and dying for it. If you have the stronger lane, by all means force it. Zone the enemy off their minions. But if you don't have the ability to, then don't. Just get your farm and chill. And this leads into point number 3, which is going to be knowing how to freeze or zone your minions. You need to know how to freeze, and if you don't know what freezing means, it means when you kill the minions so that the big minion gets stopped near your turret, which stops the enemy's team's minions from clashing in the middle and forces them to clash on your side near the turret, making it easier for you to farm. Now you can also do the exact same thing by freezing the enemy when you have the stronger matchup, by forcing the minions to your side and forcing them to lose minions because they could risk dying or getting poked out too heavily to get these minions. Makes sense? Perfect. Number 3. Don't ignore tower trades. If you have the ability to go and push mid lane, let the enemy EXP laner push bot lane, because mid lane is a more important turret. If there is a team fight on top lane and the enemy EXP stays on EXP lane, if you're able to win that fight and take that turret on top lane, you have won that fight and equalized the trade that their EXP lane made. Does that make sense? The next point is to stop just building the same automatic build. Itemization is very, very important. You gotta know that versus an Arlet, a Dreadnought armor is a very strong item to counter his damage, but that same item won't be strong versus an Esmeralda, and it won't be strong versus a Guinevere, so you need to build Silent Robe in these situations. Anyways though, that is some very basic micro and macro that you need to know how to do, so make sure that you are following up with the proper itemization. Now a lot of people wonder whether they should get Dominance Ice or Sea Halberd. Well, it's totally based on your hero, but for the most part if you're playing a damage hero, get Sea Halberd. If you're playing a sustain hero or a tank hero, get Dominance Ice instead. Avoid these mistakes and your EXP lane games will become significantly smoother. You'll be farming, rotating, and snowballing constantly without ever having the chance of falling behind. Anyways though, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I kept it kind of short. I didn't want to make this video way too long, and I think it's a good thing that I kept it so compact. If you guys missed any points, feel free to comment down below and tell me what you don't understand. I will gladly read through comments and try and reply to as many of you as possible.